Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Today I'll be reading. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 5, The Demigods Appeal to the Lord for the Protection. From the text 1. Text 1. Sukadev Goswami continued, O king, I have described to you the pastime of Gajendra Mokshan, which is the most pious to hear. By hearing of such activities of the Lord, one can be freed from all the sinful reactions. Now please listen as I describe the Raivata Manu. Text 2. The brother of Tamasa Manu was the fifth Manu named Raivata. His sons were headed by Arjuna, Bali, and Vindhya. Text 3. O king, O king, in the millennium of the Raivata Manu, the king of the heaven was known as Vibhu. Among the demigods were the Bhrutaryas, and among the seven Brahmanas who occupied the seven planets were Hiran, Hiranya, Roma, Vedhasira, and Udharva Bhanu. Text 4. From the combination of Subra and his wife Vaikunta, there appeared the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikunta, along with the demigods who were his personal planetary expansions. Text 5. Just to please the goddess of fortune, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikunta, at her request, created another Vaikunta planet which is worshipped by everyone. Text 6. Although the great activities and the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personalities of Godhead, various incarnations are wonderfully described, sometimes we are unable to understand them. Yet everything is possible for Lord Vishnu. If one could count the atom of the universe, then he could count the qualities of the Supreme Personalities of Godhead. But no one can count the atoms of the universe, nor can anyone count the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Text 7. The son of Chakshu, known as Chakshusa, was the sixth Manu. He had many sons headed by Puru, Purusa, and Sudhya Man. Text 8. During the region of Chakshusa, Manu, the king of the heaven, was known as Mantradhram. Among the demigods were the Apyas, and among the great sages were Haivishman and Viraka. Text 9. In this 16th Manvantara millennium, Lord Vishnu, the master of the universe, appeared in his partial expansion. He was begotten by Viraja in the womb of his wife Deva Shambhuti, and his name was Ajita. Text 10. By churning the ocean of the milk, Ajita produced the nectar for the demigods in the form of a tortoise. He moved here and there, carrying on his back the great mountain known as Mantara. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Sundarachal Prabhuji, please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Radhika Mataji, thank you so much for reading today's translation. Uh, Welcome to all the devotees for today's Bhagavatam class. Hare Krishna to all of you. We'll discuss today's Srimad Bhagavatam class on fifth chapter of eighth canto. Chapter titled "The Demigods Appeal to the Lord for Protection." So we'll have a brief prayer before we start. Om Ajnanaतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादि पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So the class that we have earlier heard about the Gajendra's pastime, Gajendra's prayers of surrender, and Gajendra returning to the spiritual world has been wonderfully described, and how the elephant Gajendra ended up in a crisis was actually that prompt that based on the question asked by Parikshit Maharaj when the description of Manus were discussed in one of the Manvantra where Hari has, when the description came about Lord taking the form of Hari and rescuing the elephant Gajendra was that point has prompted Parikshit Maharaj to inquire about this wonderful pastime. And we heard about the Manu's administrators of the universe. And the first chapter is a continuation. Apart from Swayambhu Manu, what are the other Manus of the past, present, and future? That was the original inquiry of Parikshit Maharaj, and based on which Sukadeva Goswami is narrating the descriptions of different Manus from different millennia. And we'll resume the discussion because that Gajendra's pastime is concluded as of fourth chapter. So the discussion is back to uh, inquiring about the Manus. Yeah. So the discussion is back to discussion about the Manus. Um, so the fifth chapter is titled as Demigods Appeal to the Lord for Protection. So why the chapter is titled? So we will come to know. Romantic devotees. I will turn off my phone. So there's a description for the chapter given by Srila Prabhupada. So I'll also go through that brief overview. This chapter describes the fifth and sixth Manus, and it also describes the prayers of the demigods and the curse of Durvasa Muni. The brother of Tamasa, the fourth Manu, who was previously being described in the first chapter, was the fifth Manu, Raivata. The sons of Raivata included Arjuna, Bali, and Vindhya. During the reign of this Manu, Indra, king of heaven, was known as Vibhu. Among the demigods were the Bhutarayas, and among the seven rishis were Roma, Hiranya Roma, Vedasira, and Urdhva Bhanu. The rishi known as Shubhra by his wife Vikuntha gave birth to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikuntha. This Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested a Vaikuntha planet at the request of Ramadevi, and his power and activities are mentioned in the third canto. The sixth Manu was Chakshusha, the son of Chakshumanu. Among the sons of the sixth Manu were Puru, Purusha, Sujumna. During the reign of this Manu, Mantra, Mantradruma was Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. Among the demigods were the Apyas, and among the seven rishis were Havishman and Viraka, the wife of Vairaja, whose name was Deva Sambhuti, gave birth to Ajita. an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Ajita, taking the shape of a tortoise and holding the mountain known as Mandara on his back, churned the ocean and produced nectar for the demigods. Maharaja Parikshit was very eager to hear about the churning of the ocean, and therefore Sukadeva Goswami began to explain to him how the demigods, having been cursed by the Durvasa Muni, were defeated in the battle by the Asuras. When the demigods were deprived of the heavenly kingdom, they went to the assembly of the house of Lord Brahma and informed Lord Brahma of what had happened. Then Brahma, along with all the demigods, went to the shore of the ocean of milk and offered prayers to Shirodakashai Vishnu. So coming back to the today's verses from verse number 1 to 10. So the first verse talks about Raivata Manu. And Raivata Manu is the son of Priyavrata Maharaj. And his the Devas were called during that millennia, the Devas were called Bhutariyas, Bhutarayas. And Manuputra, the sons of Manu during this millennia were called, who are actually headed by Arjuna, Bali, and Vindhya. The Indra during this millennia, who is a Shura Ishvara, is Vibhu, and Rushaya, seven chief sages during this reign, is Hiranyaroma, Vedasira, Urdhva and others. Amshavatara, who are Manvantara avatars during that time, is Vaikuntha, who is the son of Shubhra and Vikuntha. The Lord's activities were described apart from the. So, in these first few verses that we're going to, I just summarized about. The first verse talks about Sri Shuka Uvacha Rajan Uditam Etatte Hare Karmanga Nashanam Gajendra Moksham Punyam Raivatantva Antaram Shrunu. Now that I have described about Gajendra Moksha, which is very auspicious and giving and pious to hear, now hear about Raivatam Tva Antaram Shrunu. So, in this millennium, let me describe about Raivatam Manu, O king. So, the text 2 is mentioned as Panchamaha Raivataha Nama Manus Tamasa Sodaraha Bali Vindhya Ajayastasya Suta Harya Arjuna Purvakaha. So the fifth Manu, the Panchama Raivata Nama, who is a Raivata Manu, Manus Tamasa Sodara, he is actually a brother of Tamasa Manu, who is the Manu in the fourth millennia, fourth Manvantara. Bali Vindhya Dayastasya. So the Bali and Vindhya are the sons, Adayaha, and so on are actually sons. Tasya Sutaha, Ha, Arjuna Purvakaha. Among those, Arjuna is the eldest. Third verse talks about Vibhuhu, Indra Suragana, Rajan Bhutarayadayaha, Hiranyaroma Vedashira, Urdhva Bhaho Adayodvijaha. As Dvija here are described as the sages of that particular millennia, the seven sages. So Vibhuhu Indraha Suraganaha. So In the millennia of Raivata Manu, the king of the heaven was known as Vibhu. Vibhu Indraha Suraganaha Rajan Bhutarayadayaha. And among the demigods were Bhutarayas. They were called as Bhutarayas. Hiranya Roma Vedashira Urdhvabahu Adayaha. All these, these names that I just mentioned about, they are actually the seven sages during that millennia, the rishis, saptashis. So the fourth verse is Patni Vikuntha Subhrasya Vaikunthaihi Surasattamaihi Tayo Swakalaya Jagne Vaikuntha Bhagavan Swayam. The wife Patni Vikuntha Subhrasya, Vikuntha, who is the wife of Subhra, has given birth to Vaikuntha Surasattamaihi. He is actually the best along among the demigods. It is described. Tayo Swakalaya Jagne Vaikuntho Bhagavan Swayam. And he is not an ordinary person. He is in fact taken a role of king of demigods, but he himself is a Bhagavan. Bhagavan Swayam. Jagne Vaikuntha Bhagavan Swayam. He appeared. He is not forced to take birth like rest of the conditioned souls. That way it is mentioned Jagne instead of mentioned. It is not mentioned as a bhava or something like that. He appeared actually. Jagne Vaikuntha Bhagavan Swayam. So from the combination of Subhra and his wife Vikuntha, there appeared the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikuntha. And who is this? Uh, what is the position of this person? He appeared along with the demigods, but doesn't mean he is one among them. He is, uh, in fact, all other demigods were mentioned as his personal plenary expansions. So he himself is the source of them, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Fifth verse says, just to please the goddess of fortune, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikuntha, at her request, created another Vaikuntha planet, which is worshipped by everyone. So this is very interesting verse. Vaikuntha Kalpito Yena, created Loko Loka Namaskutaha, such a planet which is being offered obeisances by people from all the three worlds. He created such a planet. Ramaya, why did he create it? Ramaya Prarthayamanena, by the request of Ramadevi, Mother Lakshmi Devi, Devaya Tatpriya Kamayaya, just to please her, he created this. Just to please his devotee, dear devotee Lakshmi Devi, he did this. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Prabhupada is giving a details behind this pastime, where and what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is remarking that Vaikuntha planet, like Srimad Bhagavatam, just like how Srimad Bhagavatam appears, similarly Vaikuntha planet also appears in this material world, and it is said to be born or created, but both Srimad Bhagavatam and Vaikuntha eternally exist beyond the material universes. They appear when by sweet will of the Lord. So which are enveloped by eight kinds of coverings. This material universe is enveloped by eight kinds of coverings. And Srimad Bhagavatam descends into this material world, which is having these eight coverings. Similarly, uh, Vaikuntha planet also has descended to this material universe. As described in second canto, Lord Brahma saw Vaikuntha before the creation of the universe. So when Lord Brahma was uh, perplexed, he was confused on his on whereabouts of his birth, and he was alone, all alone in the darkest universe where didn't exist. At that time, he did lot of tapasya for 100 millennia. And then after he did that tapasya, Lord Hari has appeared, Lord Krishna has appeared, spoken from as an inner voice, giving him the further instruction. So actually, he based upon his inner voice, he did tapasya, and after that, Lord was pleased with his tapasya, and he appeared, and he assisted him, gave him all the ingredients necessary for the visarga, secondary creation. So in that pastime, when Lord Hari has appeared, first he has shown the he has given him a vision of Vaikuntha, which is in this material world. He gave him a darshan of that material world, and it is wonderfully described. If you go back and if you have find time, you can read descriptions of Vaikuntha planet. And Veera Raghavacharya mentions that Vaikuntha is within this universe. It is situated above the mountain known as Lokaloka mountain. This planet is worshipped by everyone. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, fifth canto, dear devotees, you might have heard already the Bhagavatam cosmology. So the Bhagavatam cosmology, uh, it is mentioned that the whole perimeter of the Bhumandala is, it is actually we have a boundaries in a, where in the whole universe is uh, circumference is actually covered by a tallest mountain. It is described, and beyond which the light also cannot pass. The light of the sun cannot penetrate beyond the Loka mountain. Such a tallest mountain is actually demarking the inhabitable part of this Bhumandala. And beyond that, it is uninhabitable, actually, it is described. And this Loka mountain uh, is very tall, actually. In fact, it is probably as tall as one fourth or half of the universe or something like that. And above this Loka mountain, which is even higher than that, is where this Vaikuntha planet we are currently hearing about is situated as per Veera Raghavacharya. And this planet is worshipped by everyone because it is actually spiritual world. That's why it is worshipped. So, sixth verse, तस्यानुभाव कथितो गुणाश्च परमोदयाः भौमान् रेणुः विममे यो विष्णोर्वर्णयेद् गुणान्. Although the great activities and transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, various incarnations are wonderfully described, sometimes we are unable to understand them. Yet, everything is possible for Lord Vishnu. And if one could count the atoms of the universe, Bhauman Renun sa Vimame. If one can count Vimame, Bhauman Renun, the particles of this universe. Yo Vishnur Varnayed Gunan. Then he could count the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Elsewhere, it is mentioned, even if scientists can actually count, it is actually uh, uh, even if scientists, the greatest scientist can count the number of dust particles of this universe, still he cannot count the qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what we heard earlier. I don't remember the exact reference, And now it is described, if one can count the atoms of universe, then he could count the qualities of this supreme personality of Godhead. So, but so here the indication is basically no one can count the atoms of the universe. Maybe they can count the dust particles, as I was mentioning from my earlier verses, but they cannot count the atoms of the universe, it looks like. Nor can anyone count the transcendental qualities of the Lord. That is the main essence. No one will be able to count the transcendental qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we had a similar such wonderful references earlier, where Lord Anantadev, a direct incarnation of the Lord, he himself is the direct incarnation of the Lord, has unlimited mouths. And with each of the mouth, he has been trying to describe the glories of the Lord for an unlimited span of time, but still, yet the glories of the Lord remain unlimited, and therefore he was never able to finish glorifying the Lord. So he is still ongoing. He's still continuing to glorify the Lord for eternity. He is going to do that. So such is the glory of the uh, Lord who has unlimited qualities in him. And the Lord's glorious activities referred to this connection took place after his personal bodyguards Jaya and Vijaya became Daityas, having been cursed by the great sages Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, Sanatkumara. Jaya and Hiranyaksha had to fight with Varahadeva, and that same Varahadeva is mentioned in this regard to Raivata millennium. So it is earlier we have heard that Lord appears as Varahadev, and Varahadev is such a um, so the Varahadev form is mentioned, right? The third verse of Jayadev Goswami prayers, where it is described. Let me recite that wonderful prayer where we also, now that it is mentioned here, Vasati Dasana Shikhare Dharanani Tava Lagna Shashini Kalanka Kaleva Nimagna Keshava Dhrita Shukara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. It is mentioned that in the third verse of the Dasavatara Stotram, O Keshava, O Lord of Universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of boar, all glories to you. The earth, which has become I, merged in the Garbhodaka ocean at the bottom of the universe, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk like a spot upon the moon. How here it is glorified how uh, Lord Hari in Varahadev form has rescued Mother Earth. So in Chakshusha Manvantara and in the first Manvantara, which is I don't remember the name. In these two Manvantras, Lord appeared. So these are the two times he has appeared. So we are talking about the fifth Manvantara. So where Raivata millennium is happening. So Lord has actually fought during this time. It is mentioned. The first fighting took place in the reign of Manu, is what we heard, which where Lord appeared in the form of Varahadev in the white color. Now he appeared in the uh, black or red color. I don't exactly remember. So this in the Chakshusha Manvantara, he appears in a different color. Therefore, according to some authorities, there are two Varahas, but others, however, Prabhupada says Varaha appeared during the reign of Swayambhu Manu and stayed in water until that of a Raivata Manu, and some may doubt that it is impossible. Answer is that everything is possible. So Prabhupada is saying none of these commentaries are incorrect. Everything is possible. That means different kalpas, different universes, Lord performed different varieties of pastimes. So these commentaries applicable at some point, at some place. So that's why Lord is inconceivable. Nobody can actually put his law can fit Lord and his activities in their limited uh, mindset. They cannot analyze. So so everything is possible. Lord is inconceivable. If one could count the atoms within the universe, one could count the qualities of the Lord. So seventh verse is talking about Shashtascha Chakshu Putras Chakshuno Nama Vaimanuhu Puru Purusha Sajjumna Pramukhas Chakshusatmajai Chakshujatmaja. A son of Chakshu known as Chakshusha was the sixth Manu. So he had many sons headed by Purusha, and Surjumna. Eighth verse is talking about Indro Mantra Drumas Tatra Deva Apayada Yogana Munayas Tatra Vairajan Havishmat Virakadaya. During the reign of Chakshushamanu, the king of heaven was known as Mantra Druma, Indradev. Among the demigods were Apyayas, and among the seven sages were Havishman and Viraka. Ninth verse, Tatrapi Deva Sambhutyan Vairajaya Bhavat Sutah Ajito Nama Bhagavan Amshena Jagatah Patihi. So here, so the second verse, so the ninth verse is talking about in sixth Manvantara millennium, Lord Vishnu, Master of the Universe, appeared in his partial expansion, and he was begotten by Vairaja in the womb of his wife called Deva Sambhuti, and his name was Ajita. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And 10th verse talks about Payodhim Yena Nirmatya Suranam Sadhita Sudha Brahmamano Ambasi Dhrutaha Kurmorupena Mandaraha. By churning the ocean of milk, Ajita produced nectar for the demigods in the form of tortoise. Ajita is here named, is now none other than the Kurmadev avatar of Lord Vishnu. He produced nectar for demigods. He moved here and there, carrying in his back the great mountain known as Mandara mountain. So let's also recite a verse here. Chitiriha vipulat Chitir विपुलतरे तिष्ठति तव पृष्ठे धरणिधा धरणिधारणकिङ्कचक्र गरिष्ठे केशवधृता कूर्म शरीरा जगदीश हरे. The second verse. O Keshava, O Lord of universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of tortoise, all glory is to you. In this incarnation as a divine tortoise, the great Mandara mountain rests upon your gigantic back as a pivot for churning the ocean of milk. From holding up the great mountain, a large scar like this depression is put in your back, which has become most glorious. So this concludes today's discussion, oh dear devotees. Uh, and thank you so much for the opportunity, dear Sundaranand Prabhuji. And thank you for attending today's class with patience. And now the time is 7:34. We will conclude. Jagat, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for very beautiful class. Thank you all devotees for joining the class today. Let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji and all the devotees. Vancha kalpatarupyasya kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Granted Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all devotees.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank